Sometimes it seems like the world is run by chimpanzees, even though some of them might come with college degrees. It's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction, but I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlotte Laws, and today we're going to be discussing polygamy, identity theft, eradicating the penny, and whether the foods you eat have anything to do with your choice for president. But first, I'd like to introduce my esteemed panelists. We have Garret Swayne, who is a talented singer-songwriter, and we have Ralph Cissne, who is a well-respected writer and creative strategist. And welcome to the show. And the first topic we're going to discuss is whether we are penny-wise or penny-foolish. There is a movement that's been afoot which has to do with eradicating or phasing out the penny. And part of the reason for this is that it now costs, with the rising prices of metals, it costs 1.4 cents to produce each penny. In addition, the average person spends 2.4 hours per year dealing with pennies, which comes to about $40. So not only is our tax dollars going to manufacturing pennies, we're having a loss there, but also we're spending our time. And, in the store, people take 30 seconds to go through their purse to try to find a penny, and so the stores everybody's losing money is the argument. And so the idea is to have 5 cents be the lowest piece of money, and everything would get rounded either up or down to 5 cents.
What do you think about that?
Well, what do I think about it? I'm supposed to answer the question. Ask the questions.
Well, I have a few things to say about it.
Okay.
First of all, if we go to a nickel, it costs almost 10 cents to make a nickel, because actually pennies, you think they're copper, but no, they're actually made of zinc.
Right.
And the nickels are mostly copper. And
it costs 10 cents? That's what you found to make a
nickel?
nickel?
Yeah, it costs almost 10 cents.
Wow.
So it's like if you were a business.
No wonder we're losing money. We're in a deficit.
No, it's
Who
like,
is minding the mint?
It's like millions of dollars, and it makes no sense. If a business was running the mint, it would stop immediately. If you had to personally finance it, everything that you did cost you double what it cost to make, you would stop immediately. Right. This is like another one of those signposts on the fact that we're on the road to oblivion, that the government even continues to do this for like a day, let alone for years.
Well, to me, it seems like stop making pennies that cost 1.4 cents to manufacture. Let the ones that are in circulation continue to circulate, and let them be legal tender, but stop making new pennies. And same thing with nickels, for heaven's sake.
No, but you've got to have a small, some sort of sum that's small that people can use.
Well,
you don't necessarily have to.
How much does it cost to make a dime? Maybe it's even more. I don't know.
They've had similar situations in other economies, India, other places, where Russia, where the coin was worth more than, and people would just melt it down and sell the copper.
I got the solution. Make pennies out of paper. Issue paper pennies.
Well,
that's got to be cheaper than a penny.
No, they could make them out of steel like they did during World War II.
No, make them out of paper. Just print a paper.
I mean, it's got to be something that's, can't be, fraudulently manufactured. So you've got to be very careful with what you do.
First of all, who's going to bother to counterfeit a penny? I'm telling you, this is a brilliant idea. Send us into Washington.
They did that. They did it in World War II because we had to have copper for wiring for all the.
Well, they say the zinc lobby is part of the reason why they've had trouble. They've never been able to pass legislation on this. I think it has to do with people also resisting change. The idea of just things changing, people always resist that. And also, I think people worry about changing it to 5 cents as the lowest piece of money, because I think they think that means prices are going to rise and there's going to be some sort of, they're going to pay more in the end. And I think that's what the fear is.
To quote The Godfather, this isn't personal, this is business. And it doesn't make any sense to continue this for another day.
I agree.
All right. Well, next topic then
Okay.
is the fundamentalist Mormon Church. There was, and everybody knows about the raid that the government went in and took out over 400 kids from the ranch in West Texas, and this was the polygamous ranch. They have there supposedly 6,000 to 10,000 members, and so they took the children. They had gotten supposedly a call from a 16-year-old girl that said that she was being forced to have sex with this middle-aged man that she was forced to marry, and that's why they went in. And now they're testing the DNA of these children to find out, if they can, who the parents are and try to get everything sorted out, is what the government's doing. And right now the kids are with caretakers, which is very difficult because they're raised in a sheltered way, so they're not supposed to be around the color red, and they eat only wholesome food, and they don't watch TV.
They're not about they have something against the color red?
Something about color red. That's what I read in several articles. It's very odd. And they wear kind of, the women wear kind of a pioneer type clothing.
Yeah, I've seen them.
So they have this very distinct way of lifestyle. And so what do you think about the government going in and raiding the facility?
I have a very strong opinion about this. This is what I'm sure what must have happened. Well, somebody, either it was a prank call or it was a real call. It doesn't matter. My feeling is that the government should, if people want to marry, if 6 wives want to marry one man, and nobody's forcing them to do it, who are we to say they can't? If 6 husbands want to marry one wife, it's such a judgmental thing on the part of our government. We have to enforce only monogamy, It's in the Bible. These people want to follow the Bible. Let them follow the Bible.
It doesn't agree. I agree with you.
Absolutely not.
What is it our business?
Well, first of all, they aren't getting married in this. These guys are I think 60% or 40% of those girls between the ages of 12 and 17 in that compound were either pregnant or had given birth. And the reason they're not getting married is because then you have to file some paper, and then it would be public record, and obviously that's against the law. That's statutory rape. And the reason this
well, they're doing that to get around all the legal bullshit.
I don't care. Take religion out of it. It's fundamentally immoral. I don't care if they did it back in the Stone Age or the Bronze Age. No. This is not appropriate.
Not
behavior.
for us to say.
The government.
Not for us to say what it is.
Yeah, that's the law. That's what the law is for.
I understand what they're doing, but in a way, I feel like they're going overboard because my daughter grew up and she went at first to public schools, in Los Angeles, and she knows people that were pregnant at 14, and one girl that's been pregnant like 3 times before the age of 18, and some of them have babies, and I don't see
with their fathers.
Well, I don't know who the father is, but the point is the government hasn't been running into their houses and plucking them out and saying you're not fit parents, and we're going to test the DNA, and who is the father? They're not doing that. So to me, I think maybe they're going overboard.
There is a hysteria. There's clearly a hysteria about this because they've got all these kids who for no reason find themselves taken away from their mother or mothers or parents. They don't know what they've done.
The women are psychologically and verbally abused. They're taught to be submissive from the time that they're little children. If the girl resists or cries, she's beaten by her father.
Is that true? Or
absolutely
is
true.
Did you hear them interviewed?
How do you know that?
They've had panelists talking about this for the last 3 weeks.
Have you seen? They're like Stepford wives. It's the weirdest thing.
I have seen them
sit
talking.
there and yes, I love my husband. They're monotone.
The fact that any woman in modern America would wear clothing from the 19th century in the West Plains of Texas in the summertime is beyond my comprehension.
Well, according to the New York Times, Mormonism is the fastest growing religion in the Western Hemisphere. That was pretty shocking to read,
really?
But that's what
that's because if it's growing by 1%, it's the fastest growing because all the others are going down. People want to take that 10% of tithing money and spend it on
Islam was the maybe that's.
I don't know. That's what the New York Times article said in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, but they have polygamy, obviously in other cultures you see it in Africa,
I remember
Middle East.
I remember not talking, but seeing an interview with a guy. I think he was in Utah. He was one of the recalcitrant Mormons who broke with the official Mormon church, and he still had several wives. But I was hearing to him speak, and he was a really sincere, pious man who only took on these wives. Every time he takes on a wife, and he's like 4 or 5 or something like that, he sees it as an awesome responsibility. He's got to provide for her, and it's not exactly they're wild. See, they're portraying it like there's wild orgies happening all over I just don't think.
No,
I bet you that's not happening.
It's abusive and it's controlling. That's why.
Well, that
from the time those little girls could even speak, they're taught to be submissive and obedient.
I think there are probably a lot of regular relationships, throughout history. There were arranged marriages. Is that abusive? You can compare it to a lot of things.
Well, I think
100 years ago in this country, women didn't even have the right to vote. We've come a long way, but this is like beyond the pale.
Well, Ralph, I would agree with you that being programmed to be submissive and not talk back is wrong. But not necessarily. There are women who choose to be in polygamous relationships.
That's what these women say.
That's because they're all programmed.
I think only 40 of the women have left so far. Left the ranch as far as going
out of how many?
Shelter.
Out of how
I don't know how many women there were, but I know they were offered the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I wouldn't be surprised that there's with all the hysteria. We're not at all getting at all the objective story. When this thing blows over, some of the people who are members of the ranch will probably write some sort of a objective book, and it'll be a much more less charged appearance. But so much of the charge is because of the whole hysteria and Puritanism and one wife, one husband, end of story.
No, it's not. No, it's about the abuse of young women. That's what it's about. It's no different than what they're doing.
Well, that's the titillating aspect of it.
Okay, next topic is beer. There was a man who had at least 50,000 cans of beer, and he decided to build a house.
I believe you should only have one man, one can of beer. That's the way God intended it. This polybeerous relationships never work, and they're really this work of the devil.
Well, his house is a folk art museum now, or a monument, essentially, and it's being restored for $400,000. And I did some research, and there were some pretty funny houses. There were shoe houses and planet houses. Some of these are going to appear on the screen for the viewers, and some of them may be at the end of the show, so people can see some of these very funny houses that,
there's a house right there.
that people have built. So yeah, they're all, and his belief was that everybody should leave something behind to be remembered.
Well, I think it's the ultimate recycling. I know when I was growing up, my aunt and uncle used to talk about this place that they would go from time to time, that this person had built a house completely out of bottles. Obviously he would take glass bottles and then, like he would lay bricks, but obviously it takes a lot more bottles than bricks. And it was a tourist attraction. People would come by, and he had all these like mobiles and wind chimes made out of bottles that he had cut. So I think that's all well and good.
He made these houses out of beer cans.
Yeah. Do you collect anything?
I collect beer cans, of course.
No, I think in college we had a collection of like liquor bottles and wine bottles, but
No.
I grew out of that.
I collect clothes, so
You do?
I have my whole garage is converted to a closet, my 20 by 20 garage, and I have.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's
Do you ever wear them?
amazing. I have more clothes than any 25 famous actresses put together. I guarantee you. Do I wear them?
I don't know, Charlotte.
I love clothes.
Yeah, I don't think
You've
you're
seen
alone.
my closet. Have you seen it?
Well, I've heard about it.
That's been discussed in circles. Well, the next topic has to do with politics and food. And there's something called, there's political strategy is like everything, and always trying to figure out how to get more votes for your candidate. And so there's something called micro-targeting, where they look at individuals and groups of individuals and try to see certain people that maybe
People who
eat
like
certain
French
types
fries.
of food
Yeah.
would be likely to vote for this particular candidate. So I'm going to ask you first, Garret, what do you like better? Do you like granola, fig Newtons, or pizza?
Pizza.
You like pizza?
Of course.
So that means you're voting for McCain in the election. Is that true, Garret?
Probably.
There you go.
If he's bringing pizza.
If he's bringing pizza, he's got your vote.
I'm there.
Well, they say that latte, olive oil, and granola means you're voting for Obama. Wine and fig Newtons is Clinton, and pizza is McCain. Now, Ralph, do you prefer Dr. Pepper or Sprite?
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper, so that means you're Republican?
Recovering Republican.
Okay. And then Sprite is supposedly Democrats are more interested in that. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I think given my choice, I'd have Dr. Sprite.
Well, I don't like either.
As an independent, I would drink Dr. Sprite.
Karl Rove gets credit for a lot of things, and he actually used these micro-targeting tactics very successfully in George Bush's campaign, particularly the second one. He wasn't the person who invented it. Back in the 80s, before I absolutely stopped doing it, I worked on several political campaigns as a media consultant, advertising marketing person. And back in those days, we were talking about psychographics. And so that's just the evolution of it. They get narrow focus as far as the messages that they would send out.
Well, I know James Carville thinks it's rubbish. You know, he doesn't believe this at all, and he's a Democratic consultant.
Yeah, but he's more of a big, what's the theme and the direction and manipulating the media guy. But then you have people that are developing messages for direct mail or website messaging that have these micro targeting.
What makes you think, I mean, seriously, what makes you think that if people share the same proclivity for French fries or whatever it is, that they're going to have the same, that's going to correlate with their political?
They've done research.
Well, I think it's psychological drivers that are behind whatever the behavior is, and there's maybe a reason why people gravitate towards particular
Conservatives
foods.
prefer, if they're having a drink, to have bourbon or scotch. Liberals would prefer, you know, a wine spritzer, Chardonnay, or vodka.
He's very matter of fact about this.
No, that's because
I'd like to see the research. You know,
I'm
that's
a
true.
skeptic, and I'm a little bit of a skeptic too. It is kind of hard to completely believe,
bit.
although it worked pretty well here with our little test.
I used to do research, and
I'd pick pizza too, and I'm voting for McCain.
well, pizza's so much better than granola, and pizza's so much better than Fig Newtons.
It's hard to believe anybody would pick Fig Newtons or granola.
I'm sorry.
I think McCain rigged this.
I would
whole
choose.
poll.
I would choose granola. So.
You would choose
Would
granola?
you?
You would have granola instead of pizza.
Well, I have
But
pizza.
you voted for Obama in the primary,
Yes,
so
I
there you
did.
go.
Yes, I did.
Well, I did too, because I preferred him to Hillary,
okay.
and they wouldn't let me vote in the Republican
I
thing
see.
because I was an independent.
Right. Yeah,
The
right.
Democrats let me. The Democrats let you cross.
Yeah,
over.
they did.
Yeah.
I actually couldn't. I changed
Vote
it.
early, vote often. That's the Republican.
Vote early and vote often.
The next topic has to do with a man in New York. He had $800. He knew he had $800 in the bank. He goes to his bank, and the teller tells him he has $5 million in the bank. So he says, "Oh, okay, I'll take $2 million of it." So he withdrew $2 million, and now he's been arrested, and he's looking at 25 years in prison. The bank had made a mistake, obviously, and someone by the same name had deposited $5 million, and it had gone into this man's account.
Oh, wow.
And then there was another situation.
That happened to me too. You know, one of my $5 million deposits went to somebody. It was a big mix-up.
There was an ATM in London that started, instead of giving out, when you asked for 300 pounds, it would give you 600 pounds. So there was like this big crowd that gathered, and people were calling their spouses and saying, "Get down here and withdraw money."
2 for 1 day at the bank.
So, you know, what do you think about this? Do you think you should get arrested for taking money out of your own account when it wasn't your error?
Yes.
You
Yeah,
do think
yeah.
so?
I mean, if he was aware that this was a fraudulent thing, he probably shouldn't. You know, be throwing the book at him.
Yes, he should. And our political culture is like he could claim temporary insanity, or he was on drugs, or his meds didn't kick in, or.
That's true.
The thing is, if somebody
It's right and
gives you
wrong.
money, and then if somebody gives you money and then you take someone to go spend it, I mean, you could say it's.
But you understand that something's a gift because someone gives it to you. If all of a sudden you find, a wallet on the sidewalk, do you go on a shopping spree, or do you make an effort to return it?
Well, I mean, I would make an effort to return it, but someone could go spend it.
Right,
and
they should
then
do-
they would
get
not be
arrested.
prosecuted.
They wouldn't be prosecuted
No,
for that, I
it's
don't
not.
think.
You're not obliged to return
If you
money
use
that
someone's
find.
credit card, access their
Well, if
bank.
you
Well,
use
that's
the credit
different.
cards are
That's
different.
different.
If it was cash, I
but
don't think you
but
did.
if
Yeah.
I'm just saying that legally speaking, I think it is immoral. I mean, in fact, somebody did.
It's illegal.
Well, you know what?
I
You
don't know
may
if it is
have
illegal.
money that's actually waiting for you, because
Really?
I found out recently if you put in missing money in Google, the first site that comes up is like unclaimed money that may belong to you. And so I put my
To me?
name in. I found that I was owed money.
Really?
When I lived in Las Vegas like 30 years ago, I had opened a DWP account, and I had put in deposit money, which was never returned to me. So the state of Nevada had my money, and I just got a check last week for $65. So
Awesome.
it was pretty cool.
I
You know,
got $300 or $400 back from an insurance policy when I lived back in Oklahoma. My nephew had said, check out this website. I think you've got some money coming. And sure enough, like 3 members of my family had money coming from different places.
Yeah, so that's
I
pretty
got
cool.
the most though.
That's pretty. Yeah, you did very well. 65 is nothing compared to what you got.
What-
Well,
No.
Another money-related issue is identity theft, which has become an out-of-control problem.
Yeah,
and just in the year 2005...
My whole identity, I stole from someone else.
You're not really Garret Swayne, right?
No. Well, I am, but I became Garret Swayne, but I was much more, anyway.
Kind of a seedy character,
Yeah,
right?
I like this one better. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, 8.3 million American adults had their identity stolen just in 1 year in 2005.
I don't call it stealing. I call it co-opting. It's much nicer
Borrowing.
term. Borrowing.
Then you give it back.
Co-opting, it's a nicer term.
So about a third of that has come off of credit card theft, a third off of like bank account theft, and another third off of opening loans or new accounts under the person's name. And have you had your identity stolen to your knowledge?
No, I haven't.
Boy, you're
I go to great lengths.
My brother-in-law has.
Oh, has he?
Mm-hmm. He
And
used to be
what
my
happened?
brother-in-law.
I mean, did
Now
any-
someone else is.
But I think it's more prevalent when you have if you have an unusual name, it's harder to do. And that's why if you're
Yeah.
Smith, Jones, Johnson,
Yeah.
you can work the system.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had several things in the last, 3 times I've had people put, fraudulent charges on my credit card. I had somebody make up fake checks.
Well, that happened to me. Someone.
All within the last year. I've had it happen 3 times.
I did lose a credit card, and it fell out of my wallet, and there were some charges made on that. But the credit card company called me right away 20 minutes later, and I said, they're not mine.
Yeah.
And they put a stop
That's
to it.
good.
somehow.
Well, there are some things you can do to kind of protect yourself. One is you obviously monitor your accounts, like what Ralph was saying. Make sure you're always kind of on top of your bank accounts and your credit card accounts. Also, there's something called shoulder surfing when you're looking at your computer or even at an ATM where people try to look over your shoulder and get information that way. So you have to be careful. There's phishing where you get these bogus emails that
Right.
try
Anybody
to
that
get,
responds to one of those deserves whatever they get.
I bet a lot of people do. I mean, I've never responded to one, but I bet people are
Thinning the
really
herd.
duped by that, I mean, I think they're normal, intelligent
Another signpost on the road to oblivion.
Well, people who are not experienced with computers, like my mom is just starting to get. Started bringing her into the computer age, and she could fall victim to a phishing thing because she
And
just
they
has
target elderly people
she
much
has
of the
enough
time.
experience. But
Hey, Garret, I just deposited $20 million from this nice man in Zimbabwe.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. That's-
Zimbabwe.
Yeah, a
I'm
lot of
helping
this,
him out. He really.
a lot of this does come from Nigeria,
West
and it's
Africa.
like these international crime rings.
Well,
a lot of them are from I think it's Nigeria.
Yeah,
but-
And MSNBC did to catch an identity thief special, which actually was really interesting. I don't know if you saw that. It was.
I would
several
like
months
that much
back.
better than the catch a predator thing. That is so. It's so hard. To catch a predator thing.
I know.
It's so. I
But it
don't mean
was
to
kind
change
of a
the
letdown
subject.
at the end of the identity thief thing because they went through all this trouble and they went to other countries and they actually found the people.
They met with them, right?
Yeah, but they couldn't do anything about it because they couldn't have them arrested because they
He
weren't
was actually
in
a pretty
America,
articulate, good-looking guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw the same special?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
saw it.
yeah.
It was actually really good. The other thing too they do is they dumpster diving, so you have to be sure try to shred all of your documents and make sure that you don't
I
have
don't
things
throw
in.
anything away. That's why I have boxes of file boxes.
And then skimming. So you have to be very careful. And that's like if you're at a restaurant and you're having, you order your food and you give your credit card to the waiter, they can run it through like a separate device in order to get your number. So you have to be very careful about who has your credit card
There was
and
an
not letting
episode
it
of
out
The
of your sight.
Sopranos about that.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. Well, the next topic has to do with obesity, and it has to do with being too fat for the gurney. And in Concord, New Hampshire, the fire department actually had to hire out a private company to get gurneys that were big enough to handle obese people. And it costs $110,000 to make a bariatric ambulance, and that's like an ambulance that's for allows for more weight. And then a standard ambulance is $70,000. And a gurney that's a bariatric one is $4,000 as opposed to a regular one that's $1,000.
Just think of the extra fuel use it caused.
That's true. Global
You
warming.
mean a gurney to
Yeah,
wheel
like-
a really obese person around costs
Yeah.
$70,000?
Yeah, that's the ambulance
Oh.
to put them in. You have to have a bigger ambulance to
Okay.
accommodate somebody who's
A bigger-
obese.
a bigger gurney.
So they're like having to upgrade all of this
So what does the
equipment.
gurney itself health cost? Did you mention that?
Yeah, the gurney is $4,000.
That's still pretty hard.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
It's a pretty sophisticated device, though.
Yeah, and if you don't have the right kind, the paramedics can hurt their back, or it can be
Well, my
a bad
my
situation.
son was an EMT for a while. He's a firefighter now. But all firefighters have to be certified as EMT, and he talked about it constantly, that you could go in and these people would be so huge that it was very challenging. He's in great shape, and the guys he worked with would be too.
Right.
That 2/3 of the United States population is overweight.
Yeah,
Adults.
it's amazing. Yeah, and then obesity, it's like 6.9% of women, and this was in 2003, 2004,
Well,
so
there's
probably more now.
There's
And
obesity.
obese is like really heavy. We're not talking about just
How do
overweight.
they define obese?
It's, what is it? It's over 35% of the body mass index is defined as obese. So
Over 35%?
35% or more.
You can go online. The WebMD, all these sites have these sort of, you can calculate your
Right.
body mass, and it's very easy.
Right.
But someone who is close to their, and when you go in for your physical, the doctor will tell you, you're like right there. My doctor told me I needed to lose 10 pounds the last time I went in, and I'm
Wow,
like,
and you're a thin guy.
I'm not. I'm just saying
look thin.
it's all about your body mass, your height
Right.
versus your
Right.
your weight times a little
Well,
calculation.
in 1985, the average women's size in clothing was a size 8 for a dress, and now it's 14. So that's a lot of difference.
When?
In 1985, as opposed to
So
now.
20 years ago.
Yeah, so that's how much heavier
Between
women
an
in general.
size 8 and
And
size
14, which is like the largest regular size you can get for a woman. You have to
is that?
go to the large sizes.
Well, the
after that.
epidemic in the industrialized world is in the United Kingdom, and they have socialized medicine there. They predict that if the epidemic of weight and obesity continues, by the middle of the century, their healthcare system will be bankrupt because of it. Because of type 2 diabetes, all the cancers that are caused from it, high blood pressure, hypertension, heart attacks. It's amazing. People are eating themselves to death. And the sad thing about it is once you become overweight, or certainly become obese, the odds of you without bariatric surgery, the odds of you losing weight and keeping it off are like 1 in 10.
Yeah.
Well, even when you have the surgery, I think a lot of people gain it back. When you have the surgery that
You mean like
If
they
you
actually cut the fat out of your body.
If you have bariatric bypass surgery,
the stomach pouch
you,
thing?
you don't gain the weight back because your stomach goes from like this to like that. So, but what happens is you don't become, a normal person. You're just overweight, but you're not obese.
Oh, really? You
Yeah,
can't?
what do you mean?
How come you can't get thin? I mean, how come you can't be? I mean, they shrink your stomach,
Right.
so you can't eat a lot of food. But why wouldn't you be a thin person? Why
Well,
would you always be overweight?
would you lose weight?
This is just as they, you don't, you lose. They did had a report, I think it was on 60 Minutes recently. This guy who does a lot of these surgeries, and he was like at the forefront of it for a long time. He was an older guy, and they had 6 people. Leslie Stahl was interviewing them. There were 8 of them, and within 5 days of having the surgery, all of them had diabetes. The diabetes, they all stopped taking their medication.
They stopped taking their medication?
For diabetes,
I
it's
have
gone.
to wrap it up now, but I want to thank you both for joining me today. And I hope we brought some uncommon sense into your life. As you putter through your day, remember, everybody's wrong but me. See you next time. It's an interesting, you know a lot about.
Sometimes it seems like the world is run by chimpanzees. Even though some of them might come with college degrees. It's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction, but I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world, everybody's wrong but me.